Hello everyone, thank you for joining us in this session of Spokane Public Schools Keeps Learning series for mathematics. Today's lesson is for students in grade 3, but all of you are welcome to join in. This lesson is the next in our series. My name is Kelsey Shadow and I'm a 3rd grade teacher at Cooper Elementary in Spokane Public Schools. I will be your teacher for today's lesson. I'm glad that you are participating with me today. If you didn't see our previous lessons, you are welcome to view them on the KSPS website. Sometimes it's helpful to go back and watch the other lessons in our series, so you can continue to build on your understanding of mathematics that we will be doing together during this time away. Today, we will be learning all about the perimeter of shapes. We will start by looking at some quadrilaterals and then move into an irregular shape as our ending challenge. For today's lesson, you're going to need something to solve your math on. So a paper, pencil, pen. I'm going to go ahead and give you a moment to go gather your supplies and we'll get started together. The first step in this lesson is for us to make sure we all know what perimeter means. Perimeter is the outside of a shape. So it's the distance in linear units around a 2-dimensional figure. The perimeter, though, of a circle is called the circumference. So if I was looking over at these 3 shapes, one of them already has these little lines that are identifying each segment of the perimeter. Now on the triangle, it's not labeled, but my perimeter would be side 1 plus side 2 plus side 3. This last one is an irregular shape, and that's what we're going to save as our ending challenge, noticing that I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides that I'm going to have to figure out before I can begin adding up to find my perimeter. Some of you might be wondering, when would we ever use perimeter? Where does it show up in the real world? Well, perimeter is around us all the time. Perimeter can be seen as the fences, molding, and trim. Fences show us where the outside of a property is. It shows where my property is and where my neighbor's property is. It also shows people that live around me where my land is and I don't want them coming near. That perimeter is the outside line of my area or of the schoolyard. The next one, molding, is that piece of either plastic or wood that goes along the very bottom of the wall and it goes between the wall and the carpet. The perimeter of the room can be measured by how much molding or whether it's wood or plastic that is used. In construction, it's something that's really important to know. The last one is trim. Trim is often found around windows and doors. This again is used in the world of construction, in painting, in building. It's important that we know that math shows up around us all the time. So whether we like it or not, it's important that we do our best to understand it. So for today's lesson, we're going to be thinking about perimeter in the terms of fences. Now, some of you may have visited a farm before, and you may have recognized that some farms have separate areas for different animals, knowing that not all animals get along, or some animals will eat other animals' food if you let them. So by sectioning it off using fencing, you can separate those animals to keep them all safe and to make sure everybody gets the right amount of food. So here you'll see a picture that has sheep, pigs, chickens, cows, horses, and some ducks. Now notice that none of those perimeters are exactly the same. None of those shapes are exactly the same. Down here on the cow, we have right angles. And we have 4 sides. The horse has right angles and four sides, but on the horse's fence, not all of them are the same length. So that would be a rectangle instead of a square like the cow. My sheep has 6 sides. My pig has 4. Chickens have 4. Ducks? That one's a little hard to tell with my picture down there in the corner, but it's kind of like a cross. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 sides on that duck pen. Let's go get exploring. So my first problem to explore is all about the pigs. And it says, the farmer measured the outside of the pig pen and wrote the measurements below. What is the perimeter of the pig pen? I want you to take a minute and I want you to decide, what are you going to do with those 4 numbers? Are you going to add, subtract, multiply, or divide to come up with that perimeter, the distance all the way around? Hopefully, you've decided that you need to add those 4 numbers together. Now let's look at those 4 numbers and see what we have in common. I have a 17, and I'm going to start with that 17. Then I have 2 11s, and I know that if I double 11, I get 22. So I'm going to do 2 groups of 11, and that gets me to 22. And I have this 8 still here. Now, if I'm thinking about making a 10, I know that 8 and 2 make a 10. So if I take this 2 from the 22 in the ones place and I add the 8 to it, I'll end up with another 10. So rather than having 2 10s, I'll have 3 10s. So now I have 2 10s plus 1 more 10 gives me 3 10s. So I know that 11 plus 8 equals 30. So now I need to add that 30 onto the 17 that I started with. When I add these two, I need to be making sure that my 1s stack on top of my 1s and my 10s digits stack on top of my 10s. So 7 plus 0 is 7, and that 1 is worth 10, and that 3 is worth 30. So 10 plus 30 is 47. Now I could be done, but it's really important when I'm working with measurement that I need to label what I measured in. In this problem, I've measured in feet. It would be very different if I went to the fencing store and said I needed 47 feet, 47 miles, or 47 inches. Those are all very different measurements. So I have to label that 47 to show that I'm working in feet. Now, hopefully, you were able to follow along with my thinking. Was your thinking similar? Did you figure out another way to get 47? There's more than one way to get the correct answer of 47 in this problem. It doesn't matter which numbers you start adding with, as long as you've double-checked your thinking and you've made sure that you've labeled your answer. We're going to move on now and talk about the cow. The cow's pen, that's the area in which the cow is staying, is a square, and one side equals 8 feet. How much fencing should the farmer buy to make the perimeter of the pen? If you're ready to go ahead and start solving, begin. Now, those of you that aren't quite ready to start solving yet, let's look at this problem. I know that a square has 4 equal sides. That means all the sides are the same length. So I'm going to label this side as having 8, this side is having 8, this side is having 8, and this side is having 8. Now it's important, remember in measurement, I have to label that unit. So I have 8 feet, 8 feet, 8 feet. I want you to go ahead now and try solving this. And then check back in and see if you got the correct answer. Some of you are ready to move on, and let's check our work. If you are not ready, go ahead and keep working, and I'll remind you at the end to check in. So this question, I have 8 on side 1, 8 on side 2, 8 on side 3, 8 on side 4. I have 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8. Some of you will recognize this doubles fact with saying 8 plus 8 is 16. So I know 16 plus 16 now equals 32. I'm hoping that some of you also recognized that I have 4 groups of 8. And when I have 4 equal groups of the same number, I can take those numbers and multiply them. So I could do 8 times 4 equals 32. Now what did I forget on my answer? If you said that I forgot feet, you're correct, remembering that I need to label all of my equations and answers at this point in time to make sure that I know what unit I'm working in. Now I'm going to call all of you back together. Did you get 32 feet all the way around there? If you did, great thinking. If not, come back and check this problem later. Let's move on to the next slide. Now, this was the drawing that I showed you of the farm to begin with. And I want you to think, which of these animals have pens that are quadrilaterals? In some of the first videos of this series, we talked about shapes. I will remind you that a quadrilateral has a specific number of sides. Squares are quadrilaterals, rectangles are quadrilaterals, so are parallelograms and trapezoids. Who knows how many sides a quadrilateral has? If you came up with a quadrilateral as having 4 sides, you're correct. So which animals have quadrilateral pens? The pigs are quadrilateral pens, the chickens, the horses, and the cows. Those 4 shapes are all quadrilaterals. The sheep has 6 sides, so that is not a quadrilateral. And remember at the beginning we counted that duck pen, and that one has 12. Let's move on. Let's look at this horse pen now. This one can be kind of tricky. Take it slow and see if you can figure out the hint. One of the sides of the horse pen blew over and needs to be replaced. The farmer needs to buy new fence material for the missing side. The perimeter of the whole horse pen is 76 feet. What is the measurement of the missing side? We're looking for what is the measurement of this bottom side. Now some of you are going to start doing lots of hard math thinking, and that's awesome. That's a great way to check our work. I'm going to show you a little hint. The opposite sides in a quadrilateral are always the same length. So this 14 feet on this side is the same distance as the 14 feet over here. That's why they both say 14 feet. So thinking carefully, if this distance on the top is 24 feet, what's the distance down here on the bottom? If you said 24 feet, you are correct. Great thinking. If you want to come back and just solve it using the math and take 76 minus 14 minus 14 minus 24 and see if it equals 24? You can do that later, but we're going to go ahead and move on to talk about an irregular shape. So this next one can be a little bit tricky, but let's take it easy and let's use what we just learned about those opposite sides being the same length if the other sides are parallel. So the question says the farmer needs to buy a new fence material for the duck pen. What is the perimeter of the whole duck pen using the length that the farmer has? So if I look at this one, I'm going to start with saying this side is 4, and I know that the other two sides are parallel from here to here. So that would make this side down here also 4 feet. Now using what I just learned, if this side is 3 feet, that would make this side 3 feet. If this side is 3 feet, what's this side? You got it, 3 feet. If this length is 3 feet, what's this length? 3 feet. Oops. Let's fix that 3. So now we have 2 more lengths to figure out. I have this 5 feet here, and so this length here is also going to be 5 feet. And this length here is 5 feet, so this length here will also be 5 feet. So now I'm going to use the thinking around the groups of the same number that we did on that cow pen here. So I'm going to start with looking for any number that is equal to 4 feet. I'm going to see how many 4s do I have. How many groups of 4? I have 1 group of 4, 2 groups of 4. And I know that 4 times 2 is equal to 8 feet. Good job. So let's move on and look at our 3s now. How many 3s do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 groups of 3 equals what? 18. You're right. And my last set to look at is my 5s. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 5s. 5 times 4 equals 20. Great thinking. Now what do I need to do to find the total perimeter? You're right, I need to stack up those numbers to be able to help add. So I'm going to start with my largest number at the top. So I have 20, 18, and 8. I know that 2 groups of 8 equals 16. So I'm going to put my 6 down at the bottom in my 1s place, and I'm going to carry my 10s. So I have 10 plus 20 is 30, plus 10 more makes 40. So my distance all the way around the duck pen is 46 feet. Hopefully you were able to follow that understanding and keep working with irregular shapes. I have enjoyed doing some mathematics with you today. Thanks for joining me as you continue learning from home. I look forward to seeing you again on our next lesson on KSPS.